going crazy right across the mountain. You can hear them cheering. The drivers will tell you, even amongst the noise, the incredible din inside these V8 supercars, you can hear the crowd cheering. Must be an incredible moment.
12 laps remaining in the FAI 1000. Right now, Radisich is on course for a podium victory, but it's a question of what position on the podium he wants. He is driving at 11 tenths in the Shell Helix Ford. Third position. Can he catch Tander?
3.8 seconds behind the Valvoline Cummins car. I'm sure he can catch Tander, but whether he can catch Longhurst, who is another 5.8 seconds in front of the Valvoline Cummins car, that's another question.
Stone Brothers Racing Team would no doubt be keeping a very close eye on his progress and be on the radio to Tony Longhurst to tell him to keep the pace up in the Caltex Haviland Ford to prevent that exact scenario from unfolding. Look at the way the Shell Helix Ford moves, the attitude from it across the top of the mountain.
What an enthralling contest this has been. Ford and Holden so evenly matched, taking on the worst conditions that Mount Panorama could throw at them. And the two makes have been so evenly matched. Whoever wins here, it'll be a very well-deserved victory. This is motor racing at its highest quality. The most intense race you'll ever see anywhere on the planet. And again, it's going right down to the wire. Problems here for the Caterpillar car.
Looks like the back end has collapsed in some way, Mark. Something's gone wrong there with the rear suspension. Oh, they lost the back left wheel now. They lost the back right before. Now they have lost the back left.
What is going on the rear end of this car? Can't get the wheels on it. What a tragedy for the Caterpillar Ford team. They were looking so strong early in the race. Now John Bowe turns his other brake disc into a 50-cent piece. Tries to limp it home on the bitumen, but that does enormous damage to the suspension and the brakes. So this has been a real struggle. And just look at the never say die attitude of this team. Persisting with it.
John Bowe,
you could say he's
literally driving the wheels off it.
This FAI 1000 race update brought to you by Mitre 10.
With 11 laps to go, a look back at the last hour, and Tony Longhurst building a remarkable performance here in the wet on the charge, passing Tander to take the lead. Wet tyres were still on at this stage. The gamble continued. Murchison engine problems. A marvellous performance from he and Luke Youlden. They were in 6th place at the time, but out. Skaife moving through the field. The championship still in the offing and keeping close to Garth Tander, the only man who could possibly beat him. Now Jones and Darren Hossack making contact down the mountain. Jones losing his rear view mirror, his external mirror, but not losing his position. He gained one on that manoeuvre. The Shell team pits for the last time. Now this is where they moved to slick tyres as the rain abated and the dry line became wider on Mount Panorama. Longhurst makes the same manoeuvre, but he was in a slightly better position here. He took on tyres and the fuel that he needed. That was the big problem. He didn't have enough fuel to get to the line, but this was a valuable stop in just under 18 seconds. Tander and Murphy also into the pits. Murphy first out, getting a place out of that pit stop because Tander was ahead of him when they went in. Longhurst now back in the lead. The tactics have worked. He's on slick tyres with a dry line. The track looking really, really good for Tony Longhurst. Tander now passing Murphy. He takes 2nd place and is in hot pursuit. But Longhurst reacts quickly and starts putting in some good times. The gap now down to just 4 seconds between Tander and Longhurst. Here's Radisich on the charge as well, outpacing all of them for times. He's run a 2:15 to the 2:16 of Tander and the 2:17 of Longhurst. Knocked his own Kiwi compatriots into the wall as he tries to win the FAI 1000. 7 seconds off the pace. It's a beauty.
Certainly is. And we can tell you, for the Mark Skaife fans, keeping an eye on his championship bid, he's in 7th position. Tony Longhurst has got real dramas here in the Caltex Haviland Ford. The front right is at all the wrong angles. Oh, can you believe this? He was on course to take victory.
Front right-hand tyre, the whole wheel assembly. In fact, look at that.
Oh.
Now, I don't know if that wheel started falling off or he's hit something. We're trying to find a replay for you. Let's have a look at this again. Tony Longhurst.
Oh, he's had contact with John Faulkner at the top of the mountain just before they come into Forest Elbow.
Now look at the damage on the front of that car. Can you believe that? I can imagine the feeling in the Stone Brothers camp right now. That is a bent front suspension.
And their race is over.
So close, yet so far for Tony Longhurst. can imagine the depths that this team would be feeling right now. Grant Denyer.
Oh, you cannot believe the attitude of the team down here. They're destroyed. There's metal filings falling out of this wheel. It's wobbling all over the shop. There is no way that they're going to be able to get back out there. This is a shocking revelation to the way this race is unfolding, how soul-destroying for this whole entire outfit.
Absolutely gut-wrenching. Look at the mechanics. They've worked so hard. They have put every ounce of effort and expertise and experience into building this car. But as we've seen so many times, a tragedy for one team can turn into triumph for another. And just up the pit lane, look at the reaction of the Shell team. Jason Bright punches the air. He knows that now he is in contention for a win here. Paul Radisich, his teammate, chasing down Garth Tander, the leading Commodore driver, a 6.6 lead when Tony Longhurst went out of the race.
Now, even if Garth Tander does take this race out, Mark Skaife, if he finishes where he is, will clinch the Shell Championship Series. He is in 7th position right now, though. This immense fight for the lead of the FAI 1000. 6.6 seconds is the gap between Garth Tander, the Valvoline Cummins Commodore, and Paul Radisich, who is on a massive charge in 2nd position in the Shell Helix Ford.
Garth Tander will not even be thinking about the Shell Championship Series at the moment. He's got his eyes on the big prize. Victory, his first victory at Mount Panorama. And he's just got to bring it home. This is a classic fight, right to the line. Oh, look at that under brakes. Oh, he's got right out of shape.
Well, let's hope he's hung on to it. We'll soon be able to tell you.
Looked like he was about to lose it in that corner.
He's just managed to hang on to it.
So Garth Tander, right out of shape under brakes, coming down the end of Condon Straight. It looked like he almost lost it.
Now, this is a replay of Paul Radisich's earlier move on Greg Murphy. Just an indication of how he's been charging through the field there. Gary Holt was almost in the road there in the 2SM Ford. Boy, oh boy.
5.3 seconds the gap now between our race leader Garth Tander and Paul Radisich in hot pursuit. Grant?
Tony Longhurst's words just obviously can't describe.
Yeah, I can. You know, Faulkner's car started to pull right. I thought I could go down the inside to turn in the last right-hander before the cutting. Came across, just bang.
You had everything right. Your stops were right, your tyres are right, your fuel was right. So close, mate.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. I really wanted to win this race for Caltex, and you know, very, very disappointed. We had it all together. The boys had built a great car. It was going well. I was trying to maintain that 5 to 7 seconds on Tander. But look, you know, that's how easy it's lost. You know, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of effort's gone into this race, and huge amount of effort from all the team, myself, David. It's pretty disappointing.
Well, hard luck, mate. I'm so sorry. Over to you, Barry.
Yeah, Jason, I can't believe what's going on in this race.
What a race, eh? It's just never going to end, I don't think. But you know, Paul's out there doing a fantastic job for Shell Racing at the moment. He's been driving the absolute wheels off it. So you know, fingers crossed we can pull this one off.
Certainly is a charger, isn't he?
Yeah, mate. He's a certain. He's just driving the wheels off it, and you know, absolute credit. I'm wrapped to be his teammate.
Great. Okay, well, you've done a great job yourself.
Thanks, Barry.
Well, if you thought Glenn Seaton getting to within 9 laps victory was tragic, how about that? That would match it. Tony Longhurst looking so strong, heading toward victory for Ford. Stone Brothers, here is the battle now for the lead. It's going right down to the line. There's problems here. I've been watching this Valvoline car. He is having major handling problems with this. Under brakes, the car gets very skaty. It's not turning into the corners properly. I think he is really struggling with this car, and he's under enormous pressure from Paul Radisich.
We'll check the gap for you as Tander comes up across the start-finish line. Now you can see in the background there that Paul Radisich isn't too far in arrears.
3.2 seconds. 3.2. So Radisich is tightening his grip. Digging deep in the Shell Helix Ford. This is going to be the best laps he has ever driven in his career if he's going to take the lead here and win this race. Shell Helix replay of the troubled Caterpillar Ford limping across the top of the hill, but that looks like smoke coming from that car. Oh, this is when he lost that wheel.
Well, he's lost 2 wheels up there today, so for the Ford fans, some souvenirs, but that is not the way John Bowers wanted his day to pan out. Tander leads the way, but under threat from the Rat. The gap now down to 3 seconds. This is a thriller. Stay with us. So Tander, what will happen here now? Can he he resist and handle the pressure? His car, as Mark mentioned, does seem to be suffering in some way in the latter stages of this race, particularly from a handling standpoint, but all Tander's got to do is just keep his head together.
The car could be fine, it's just that Garth is driving it so hard that he's just overstepping the mark on a few occasions. This is the most absorbing battle you will ever see on Mount Panorama. Ford and Holden, the two great protagonists, the two great rivals who have fought it out here since 1963. On Mount Panorama, Garth Tander still maintaining that gap to Paul Radisich. Last time around, a 2:18.8 for our race leader. Radisich did a 2:16.7. That's where he found those 2 seconds. What's it going to be this time around?
Well, as he swings down into the chase, Tander wanting to be inch perfect about these last few laps around Mount Panorama.
That's a better line. Last time he came through there, he was way offline. We thought he was really struggling with the car. Maybe he was just pushing it so hard. He was driving it even beyond his limits. It looks pretty good now.
Gap last time around was 3.2 seconds between Garth Tander and Paul Radisich. We will check it. You can see the rat there in the Shell Helix 40 is not too far in behind him. What is it this time around?
No, he hasn't been able to respond. Garth has opened it up now. 3.9 seconds, so he's found about 7/10 of a second. So Garth Tander doing everything he can to fend off this last-minute challenge from Paul Radisich. A magnificent job by the 23-year-old Western Australian. Terribly out of luck last year when a crash took him out early. Also involved in an altercation early in 1998. Mount Panorama has not been kind to this relatively inexperienced driver. And now everything falling into his lap. He knows he's got the job to do.
Tander has never finished the FAI 1000 here at Bathurst, and he and teammate Jason Bargwanna have never won it. Could they do it here today? It's the same story for the guys who are chasing them down. Paul Radisich at the wheel, never won the FAI 1000, but his teammate Jason Bright has, so he could be on course for his second victory here. Did it in 98 with Stephen Richards, and would love to do it again here today.
Well, if we thought he was struggling, we'd be incorrect. He's just done a faster time than Radisich that time. A 2:17.8 for Tander, a 2:18.4 for the Rat. He found 6/10 of a second on the Ford driver that time around, so this car is every bit a match for the Shell Ford. Garth just driving it to 100th of a second of its ultimate potential. He's really giving it everything. He's got some lap traffic here slowing him up. Saw Tony Longhurst come to grief with a slower car earlier on. Garth Tander, I can imagine the hearts and the mouths of the Valvoline Cummins team. Gary Rogers.
You can see the Rat in the background there, and he is closing.
To go for Garth Tander, but Paul Radisich employing that massive straight line speed in the AU Falcon, trying to reel him in for an FAI 1000 victory. They'll be talking about this one for a long, long time, and there is plenty to say.
What a talent this guy is, 23 years of age. Garth Tander from Western Australia, but Radisich, although he's much older, equal to the cause. And like a magnet, he is trying to pull in the Valvoline Cummins Commodore. We'll check the gap this time around. An enthralling finish we are set for in the FAI 1000.
3.1.
It's come back down by 8/10 of a second, so the Rat has responded.
One mistake here, and this challenge will be over. 6 laps remaining. As Paul Radisich once again heads up Mountain Straight, trying to close this gap. 3.1 seconds. He found 9/10, almost 1 second on Tander that time around. And look at him, Joe Cool, sitting inside this car, working as hard as he can make this car go. Just balancing it on a knife's edge. The car's tired, the driver's tired, the tyres are tired. It's been a long, hard grind. And right here at the end, this gladiatorial battle. Radisich has got the Valvoline Cummins car in his sights. Can he close the gap? What a nail-biting finish. The FAI 1000, we've seen some beauties in the past. This is an absolute classic.
Mark Skaife safely in 6th position at the moment. All he needs to do is bring that Holden Racing Team Commodore home exactly where it is, and he will clinch the Shell Championship Series. But what a thrilling finish we are set for in the FAI 1000. Nice aerial shot there as they come down through the S's. And then the dipper of the gap between Garth Tander and Paul Radisich.
Just amazing scenes across from our commentary box on pit straight here. This crowd is spellbound. They're watching the big screen. It's mounted above us, behind the pit building. And you can just about hear a pin drop out there. The Ford fans and Holden fans holding their breath. Who is going to win this race?
They have flocked here all week despite the inclement weather conditions. It is so muddy in various parts of the circuit, and they have watched every moment of this race today. And why wouldn't you? There's been so many things that have happened, so many incidents.
Bit of debris sitting in the middle of the track there. Fortunately, both drivers being able to miss it to go on board. Paul Radisich, the 37-year-old New Zealander, originally from Auckland, enormously experienced driver in both open wheelers and touring cars. 2 times winner, the Touring Car World Cup. Also a multiple winner of his home New Zealand Grand Prix and open wheelers. A guy with an enormous amount of talent and natural speed. And the gap continues to hover. Garth Tander now has got it back. He's found another 3 or 4 tenths that time around to keep the gap at about 3.5 seconds.
Crawling. It's like a match of tennis. They're returning serve against one another. And doing it at speeds upwards of 280 kilometres an hour. Tander leading the way. There's the progressive time in the top left-hand corner of your screen. 5 laps remain in this one.
This has been an endurance test in the full sense of the word. Over 7 hours these guys have been at it. One of the toughest races on record at Mount Panorama, there's no doubt about it. The quality of the competition and how hard these teams have been pushed really sets this one above the rest. What an extraordinary finish. Garth Tander, the Valvoline Cummins Commodore. Very enthusiastic team of engineers and mechanics who work for Gary Rogers Motorsport. There's only 10 full-timers, but they are all so dedicated to improving the careers of Garth Tander and Jason Bargwanna. They're a happy bunch. They work very well together. Gary Rogers has really galvanised a very devoted team. They still operate out of a workshop at the back of his car dealership in Melbourne. They have really taken the fight up to the Holden Racing team all year, but boy, victory at Bathurst would be the sweetest win of all.
Now this one is by no stretch of the imagination in the bag for Garth Tander and Jason Bargwanna, but here's an interesting stat for you. Nobody has ever lost the lead in this race so close to the end. And Garth Tander would be listening to absolutely every sound coming from the Valvoline Cummins Commodore at a time like this. There is some massive piece of debris there in the middle of Conrod Straight just as they swing into the chase. To confirm for you, news on the eastern seaboard here in Australia will be at 6 o'clock. That debris there that was in the middle of the circuit is in fact a bumper bar off the back of Brad Jones's Aussie Mail Ford. So Tander comes across the start-finish line. Once again, there's part of the debris. We'll check the gap between he and Paul Radisich once again. And it's gone out now to 3.9 seconds. So Tander is fighting and fighting hard with 4 laps remaining in the FAI 1000. Heading up Mountain Straight once again. There's the gap for you. Let's go to Grant.
Well, an extraordinary race has led to some extraordinary things happening in this race. At the end of the day, so far, Jason Bargwanna, you and Garth Tander in the lead. He's pushing hard.
Can you think of a better way to spend your Sunday, really? I mean, this is sensational. I mean, it's so close at the moment. What can I say? I mean, I'm nervous as anything, and I'm not doing anything, so...
Well, they tell me the history is that no one has actually lost the race when they're leading so close to home.
Oh, bugger history. There's a long way to go yet, so... no, I mean, look, he's doing a fantastic job. He's pulling a gap now, so the car's great. It's been great all week. The boys have been working fantastic in the pits. I don't know. Hopefully in about 4 laps' time, I'll know whether we won or not.
I know you got your fingers, toes, all sorts of things crossed at the moment. What would it mean to you to win this?
Oh, it's a dream come true. I mean, to win Bathurst, I mean, that's what it was all about. So, no, it's good.
Only a few laps to go. Over to you, Barry.
Yeah, I don't know who looks more nervous, your DJ.
Yeah, Dick's handling pretty well. First time out of the car at Bathurst, so, you know, full credit to the Shell guys this weekend. We've had 2 very strong cars and only a couple of laps to go.
That's been a good fight. I just can't imagine how... It's one thing catching, but another thing getting past.
Yeah, it's all coming down to traffic at the moment. You know, who gets the best run through the traffic across the top of the mountain, and hopefully we can get a bit better run than what we have been the last couple of laps.
I was going to say, it's pretty even though, isn't it? Not a lot in it.
Yeah, it is. You know, Garth is out there driving the wheels off his thing too. He almost did his fastest lap of the race, you know, a couple of laps ago. So, you know, it's going to be a tough call for Paul now.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Barry.
In recent years, it's been the young guns who've stood tall on the top of the podium. After the FAI 1000 in '98, it was Jason Bright, the man that Barry was just speaking to, with Stephen Richards last year. Stephen Richards again with Greg Murphy in the wins Commodore.
Lap 158 off 161. Getting closer all the time. 3 laps remaining for our race leader, Garth Tander. He's managed to fight off this concerted attack from Paul Radisich. 3.9 seconds the gap. It's remained static, so Radisich has not been able to respond to Garth Tander's extra effort on that last lap. The gap maintaining the same at 2:16.42 for Tander, a 2:16.46, barely 4/100ths of a second difference in their lap times over 6.2 kilometres.
In 1996, Craig Lowndes became the youngest driver ever to win this race at age 22. If Garth Tander manages to guide this Valvoline Cummins Commodore to victory, he will become the second youngest driver at just 23 years of age to do so. Valvoline Cummins team sitting very nervously in pit lane at the moment, and so are the DJR squad, and it's by no stretch of the imagination over either as far as third position is concerned. Just 1.3 seconds separating Greg Murphy and Stephen Johnson in that battle for third.
It's quite extraordinary, isn't it? 2 years ago, Garth Tander was working as a mechanic on a Formula 4 team, having won the championship, the National Formula 4 title in 1997. He had nothing to drive. This enormously talented driver was twiddling spanners for a Formula 4 team. It was only when Gary Rogers gave him this opportunity that Tander was able to blossom and show his true potential. He had a rough beginning. He got caught up in a number of incidents. They thought he was a bit of a wild child, but he matured very, very quickly. And now he's showing the enormous depth of speed that Gary Rogers always knew he had, and he's delivering here at Mount Panorama. Grant.
Imagine how close the tank in Garth Tander's car is to empty. Remember, we had Gary Rogers saying about 15 laps ago, it was always going to be close. Well, this is where the moment will count. Will they make it? Let's hope so. It must be very, very close to being empty.
Nerve-wracking moment for the Valvoline Cummins team. So too the Kmart team. This is the battle for third place. Shell team, Stephen Johnson driving the Shell 17 car. He took over from his father. This year, he's had a lacklustre season by his own admission, but now he's really got his act together at Mount Panorama and producing the speed we've seen from Stephen in previous years. He's been outstanding today. 2 laps remaining for our race leader. 13 kilometres of racing to go for the Valvoline Cummins driver. He will take victory. 4.1 seconds. The lead gap has pumped out even more, so Garth Tander looks like he may have broken the back of the Shell Ford Challenge here. Only 2 laps remaining.
Heading up Mountain Straight, you're riding with Greg Murphy now, having a look in the mirrors to see just how far in behind him Stephen Johnson is in that Shell Helix Ford. He's so close. They swing it into Speed Stick Bend. Junior Johnson desperate to try and get onto the podium. Murphy doing absolutely everything he can to prevent him from taking it away.
Got lap traffic to negotiate too. Come off toward the mountain. Everyone must be so exhausted. It's been a very demanding day for everyone. Drivers, pit crew, team managers, statisticians. Working overtime. It's been one of those days. What a magnificent event. There's problems here for the Aussie Male Falcon. It looks like it's lost its front left wheel. And apparently, that bit of debris sitting in the middle of Conrod Straits, its rear bumper, yeah. So he dropped that there a few laps ago. So the Aussie Male Falcon, they're going to try and limp it home, but he's in all sorts of trouble. Not sure if he can negotiate that turn. Brad Jones in 8th position.
This is just a year that I think Brad Jones would rather close the chapter on and put it completely behind him. Has enjoyed
could say that.
So much success in other categories, and he really expects to do quite well here. It's been a massive learning curve for this team, and they are the first to admit that in the Aussie Male Ford. Limping it back to the pits. That damage to the front left. Heartbreaking stuff, but what a heartbreaking afternoon it has been here for lots of teams at Mount Panorama. Tony Longhurst, in what seemed like certain victory, missing out. The last lap board will be shown this time around for Garth Tander. So he is on course to take it out in the Valvoline Cummins Commodore. teammate Jason Bargwanna. He would be hearing absolutely everything inside that car right now. Every noise and weird engine sound that he may even think is some sort of problem would be playing right on his mind, and all he's got to do is just keep his head together and guide it home. There's Gary Rogers standing on pit wall. The crowd will be waiting for Garth Tander. There's the gap back to Paul Radisich. It's quite sizable now, 5.1 seconds. So GT, all he has to do is guide it home. And victory in the FAI 1000 will be his. A scintillating battle for third position, which is going to go right down to the finish line. Greg Murphy just holding out Stephen Johnson as they swing it up into the Ford cutting for the final time and across the top of the mountain. Listen to the crowd across the top. Holden fans are rejoicing, and so too the fans of the young guns. Garth Tander and Jason Bargwanna, this is their moment, and the moment for the Gary Rogers Motorsport team into the S's for the final time. As we mentioned before, Garth did it in 1996 out of Forest Elbow for the last time in the Valvoline Cummins Commodore. What a marvellous race it has been for these two guys. Hasn't been the best of years for Bargwanna. He took victory at the Winton round of the championship, which gave him a bit more hope. Tander has been in title contention for most of the season, except for that rock round at the GMC 400. He would have been perhaps a lot closer to Mark Skaife. Stephen Johnson still sits in fourth position in behind Greg Murphy, and he's finished fourth here twice before. Underneath the Dunlop Bridge for the last time for Garth Tander, his maiden victory in the FAI 1000 awaits. So too for Jason Bargwanna. Holden conquer the mountain once again. Jason Bargwanna and Garth Tander take out the FAI 1000. Their maiden victory. Well done to the Gary Rogers Motorsport operation. Gary Rogers there looking understandably emotional. Boy, oh boy, what an amazing race this has been. Mark Skaife, who's currently in sixth position, is on course to win the Shell Championship Series. There is Paul Radisich. An amazing fight right down to the finish for Paul Radisich. He finishes second through absolutely everything at it at the end. And Greg Murphy and Stephen Richards, last year's winners, finish on the podium as well. Here's the man of the moment. What a year it has been for him. With the exception of this race, has just about swept everything before him for one of the best years in his career. Mark Skaife from Victoria, formerly of Gosford in New South Wales, will take out the Shell Championship Series. A marvellous result for the Holden Racing team, Barry.
What do you reckon about that then, Gary?
Oh, Barry, it's great. It's just great for everybody. It's really, I've got a fantastic team. I've got fantastic sponsors. I've got great drivers, and God...